All right, everyone, we've got to talk about the American left and Vladimir Putin and Russia because the responses that I'm seeing over the last couple of days are hilarious to things. We just got it revealed. It's back in the news from The Hill. Of course, that we now know there was dirty dealing going on with Russia, only it happened in Obama's first term before striking a major deal with Moscow involving a significant proportion of all U.S. uranium being sold to Russian firms to exploit for their own atomic energy program. We know that this happened. We also know that the Clinton Foundation got an enormous amount of donor cash from people who appear to have been embroiled in the same situation. We also know that Obama knew about this when the deal was struck. So the real Russian collusion that went on involved Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and key figures within the Russian energy industry. That is, if the Russians really did tamper in the election, I'm thinking it probably wasn't on the side of Donald Trump. I'm thinking it was probably on the other side, which might explain why Putin said relatively little when his entire nation was being scapegoated by an entire political party for literally everything that went wrong during a shitty election where their candidate had a total mental breakdown. This makes more sense to me than the opposite, which is, without any proof at all, people are still saying, Gronald Drumpf, and waiting for Mueller to come forth. And nail him to the wall, and it's just not going to happen. But the American left, I should say, a combination of some Democrat partisans, some neoliberals, a handful of progressives that specifically ruminate on the women's rights, glass ceiling side of progressivism, as opposed to the others, because there are ideological subgroups within progressivism. One person may care more about LGBT, another person cares more about multicultural bullshit, another cares more about glass ceiling wage gap bullshit. Some of it's illegitimate issues. There are a handful sprinkled in there that are legit. Most of it's bullshit, though. We gotta face it. Most of it is based on lies. It's like there's no actual systemic wage gap. It has to do with differential choices that people make in their lives towards employment, differential sub-jobs within actual genres of employment. But no study ever honestly points out the fact that that is indeed true. LGBT, of course, if you're gay in this country, you have equal rights. You are an American citizen. Some people don't think that that's actually the case. In that, perhaps the progressives believe the same thing as some total evangelical, which is funny. But on the Russia issue, it's very, very funny that the same people who have spent now over a year constantly deriding the Russian state, saying, Red's under the bed, Putin is worse than Hitler, or at least the Antichrist. The Russian people, they're always tinkering in our elections, doing these horrible things. They just believe Obama every time he lies and says this bullcrap. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, no, it's fine for the Clinton Foundation to do charitable donations, tens of millions of them. It's sort of, from these Russian energy oligarchs directly empowered by Putin at the interventionist level. That's okay, but it's not okay for Trump to ever do a deal as a private civilian businessman. When Trump in the past worked with Russia, that's really, really suspect. He built a building. He took $500,000 in funding to build, a hole in his golf course or something like that. That's all suspect. We need to investigate. But Clinton got tens of millions of dollars from people that were under active FBI investigation in a massive bribery plot that might wrap up the president of the United States himself as well. Nothing to see here. No, Russia's blameless on that one. That's perfectly normal. That's just what the Clinton Foundation does habitually. It's kind of like when they had leaked emails showing that Hillary Clinton herself couldn't attend some fucking marriage or meeting or something in, I think it was Morocco. There was some diamond or oil baron or something there, lots of money, and they're like, well, we gave money to the Clinton Foundation. We want Clinton to come and attend our marriage. She's like, well, I can't do that, but I can send Chelsea and Bill instead in my place. I can't attend. I'm busy doing a fundraiser. And so they, I guess, smooth things over. Or the Saudi Arabians that mysteriously donated so much money to her. Oh, those wonderful human rights country, Saudi Arabia. Or Qatar. Wonderful for women's rights. Hillary Clinton stands up for women's rights unless it's anywhere else in the world. A lot of third wavers do this because they're not even feminists, honestly. They're opportunists. They're ideological opportunists that want you to donate to whatever weird cause. If this video game will solve the wage gap forever. And it turns out it's shitty. All it is ideological masturbation, basically. But it doesn't really matter because if you criticize them, you're mansplaining or you're sexist or something else. I can only imagine if some dude acted that way. Oh, he'd be called a total jerk-off, and you'd be right to call him one. Oh, this video game that took me 10 friggin' hours to design, it's basically 2 lines squiggling around a fucking page, is going to solve the issue of divorce settlements and alimony differentials. Whoa, MGTOW for life. It's just not gonna happen. The American left is so fucking hypocritical on this issue. The one time in the last couple years that they've held Russia blameless for anything involves an actual bribery plot that the FBI investigated. We know that it happened. At the time, people spoke of it. The left was like, oh, that doesn't matter. That was a long time ago. Nothing to see here. They can't prove anything. Now I find out, and I, for some reason, overlooked this, like Comey and Mueller themselves were wrapped up in the plot to begin with, apparently colluding to cover it up, to keep it under wraps so people wouldn't know that this even happened. Wonderful. Yeah, the person conducting a thorough and fair investigation into the president on the Russia bullshit is one of them. And the person who just constantly has difficulty, Comey, who nobody even likes anymore, I feel almost sorry for the dude, is the other one. Wonderful. I think, what was the third name there? Wasn't that dude that had ties to Terry McAuliffe? I can't even remember his name. It doesn't really matter, though, because a lot of people will never hear about this scandal. The one we can prove actually happened, where we've got an FBI investigation, we've got documentation that shit happened, nobody will know about. But pure speculation coming from the DNC based on, oh shit, some internal employee leaked a bunch of our emails, coming from the DNC and media groups that they themselves were funding and talking to explicitly and getting favorable coverage from during the election. They were literally under the DNC and Clinton camp's marching orders. We're going to believe anything that they say and speculate. It's just like this bullshit that's trending right now on Twitter, where one congresswoman says, well, Trump told the mother of this fallen soldier unkind things. What proof do you have? You don't need proof, apparently. Trump is just a bad dude. I had people commenting this. Oh, but Trump lies habitually. He's just a horrible person. It sounds like something he would say, therefore he's guilty of this. Now, of course, he comes out and says, no, I didn't, and I can prove that I didn't. Well, that's going to be funny. I hope he can, by the way. Maybe they'll shut a few of these people up. They'll realize that they were hoodwinked by the legacy media and by an opportunistic congresswoman who, by the way, she'll probably get reelected, probably from a blue district, that hates Trump. Well, no accountability whatsoever. There never will be in D.C. until we clean house. And cleaning house requires that people within the states have the balls to primary all of their incumbents. A lot of these people are too ballless to do it. They're either ballless or they're ignorant in many cases. They're ignorant to the fact that you have to have a challenger in order to keep the field a little bit cleaner than it currently is. In a lot of states, it never happens. Like a lot of times, people here in Vermont run unopposed. I think there were several races that were unopposed during the last election. It shouldn't be that way. Put up a generic challenger. Just in the case where there's no actual explicit challenger, it should be a situation where there's a box there anyway for vote of no confidence in this incumbent individual. And if they get enough no, you can't go back to work votes, then you have an automatic primarying process to show, hey, they don't have sky-high approval. Develop something like that. Have a bunch of alternates there or something. You can literally have such a situation. Yeah, you could design a state legislature that way. I think it'd be good for the world. That's about all. Peace out.